Released in 1996, The Ghost in the Darkness is an action thriller based on the true story of a pair of male lions known as the Tsavo Man Eaters, which killed and ate dozens of people during the construction of the Tsavo River Bridge in 1898. Starring Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas, the film received mixed reviews from critics, yet went on to win an Academy Award for Best Sound Editing. Unlike most movies of the 21st century that feature animals, the lions in the film weren't CGI or animatronic. Instead, the man-eaters of Tsavo were played by real lions named Bongo, Caesar, Sudan, Roman, and Wotan. Why do I know this? Well, despite his name being misspelled in the credits, my dad, Ted Strickwoda, was one of the lion trainers for the film. A near-fatal car crash, a cobra living under his tent, and an escaped lion with over 750 extras on set. It's a story so remarkable that you'll think my dad is lying.
Okay, so my name is Ted Strickwoda. For most of my adult life, starting from when I was 18 to roughly, I did it for around 45 years. I worked in a zoo or zoos, and then also at the zoo in Bowmanville. We did a lot of off-site filming with animal training, animal actors, and that in commercials and TV and in some movies.
Some? Hang on to it. This is a nice bundle. Say Angus. Angus. There you go.
There's so many I can hardly remember all of them, but a couple that come to mind right away is we did a Glad Garbage commercial with an ostrich. We did a commercial for Juicy Jumbo hot dogs with an elephant named Angus. We did various shots with lions, tigers, jaguars. There are many, many different things. For the movie Ghost in the Darkness, I was technically speaking assistant lion trainer. There was 4 main lion trainers and 2 assistant lion trainers. Originally, I was not going to be going to Africa for the filming because I would have been needed back at the zoo. There was another trainer and a lion from the United States that suddenly were no longer part of the production. So there was room in their budget for another trainer. So I remember getting a call asking me if I wanted to go to South Africa to help with the training for 3 months. So I had like a less than a 24-hour period to decide, and then I had to get my necessary shots, work visa, and all that kind of stuff. So within a couple days, I was on my way to South Africa. All told, there was 2 lions that were from France. There was a lion out of California, and then there was Bongo and Caesar from our zoo. And here is the Sun National Post. It's me and Bongo. They were about, that's a good question, I'm trying to think back. They were about 7, 8 years old for the movie. And with lions, they won't get their full mane until they are about 5 years old. Oddly enough, in the story that the movie Ghost in the Darkness is based on, Man Eaters of Tsavo, those 2 male lions in the story had no manes. But then they just wind up looking like really big females, and it's Hollywood, and they would like to have the most impressive subjects as possible. So whether the actual lions had manes or not wasn't important. Maned lions looked cooler on screen. They were really desirable simply for the fact that they were housed together and they grew up together, so they could be shot side by side in any particular scene. 2 male lions don't know each other. To include them in a scene is just a lot of possibilities for things going wrong. If we did any filming, we would use Bongo more so than Caesar. Caesar is a little more temperamental. In fact, Caesar and I did not get along really well. For some reason, he was just nervous around me, so filming wasn't great. So when we did all the filming at the movie, I would be handling Bongo, and Mike Hackenberger, the owner of the zoo, would be handling Caesar. So a lot of the shots where they just needed a lion to walk by camera and would take a long amount of time, we would use Bongo just because he was very chill, and he was very, very comfortable and confident, and he was used to the process. Male lions are very, very self-assured versus some of the other animals that we worked with for film. For instance, wolves are very, very shy. And any kind of filming that we do with them, it required us getting to the set usually 24 hours ahead of time and let them just walk around to get acclimated to the sights and smells. Whereas, especially with Bongo, we've walked him and had him in the most unique, novel places, and he would hardly ever bat an eye. You wanted something that you knew was secure. I mean, a regular, like, say a dog leash, it can unravel, it could have a stitch that comes out. You didn't want to take any chances of that. So we had chains with a clip, but sometimes they had to be secure. But if you had to wait for the director to yell action, you had to get it open precisely at the moment you needed to release them. There was always that. You're just thinking, help me do it on time, like do it on time, do that, don't mess up, don't mess up. There's a lot of that sort of mentality. We had already made cages for them to be transported in. They were on wheels and they were very beefy, you know, could contain a lion, no problem. There was a few modifications done to these cages when they were flown out. Basically a finer mesh, just so in transport there wasn't going to be incident of somebody working and sticking their hands through and that kind of stuff. Allowed all the ventilation they needed, but nobody could suddenly stick their hands in with them, kind of thing. It was just like added on to the actual cage. It's kind of like, this was from our local video store. And this belonged as part of this poster with the 3D lions on it. Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer.
So I'm assuming you asked the movie shop owner for it?
Yeah, I told them the story that involved in the movie, and when they were done with the promotion, could we possibly have it? And I think they even got me a brand new one. The movie actually took a while to get confirmation that it was green lighted. It was just something on the horizon. But once we got notified, we probably had around 6 months to do prep.
Were there a set list of behaviors they needed to know ahead of time?
Yeah, as best they could. They knew that there was going to be a lot of shots where they'd be just put on, they needed to go to a mark or stand on a rock or just walk by camera. But a lot of what they needed was shots of a lion running, chasing like it was about to attack somebody. So it did a lot of these runs where in prep for that, we would have a 3-wheeled motorized vehicle with a rope trailing and a bone on it, and we would just take off, and then the lions would run after it, and then at the end we reward them with more meat, kind of thing. So that's probably what we spent the most time with. But there was other shots that you were a little bit more concerned with. Again, you know, there is a body, you know, the fake body, and 2 lions are looking like they're eating from it. Those were the shots you go, well, how are you going to go and accomplish that? When we would do any filming and they did the appropriate behavior, we would reward them with a small basically like a 1 to 2 inch square cube of meat that we put on the palm of our hand, and we just kind of push it in their mouth because you didn't want to be tentative. You wanted to be very, very direct, and so they didn't think, oh, maybe they're pulling away and maybe bite your hand. It took a while so you could do that confidently, and they knew the rate in which you held the meat up to them, and then so on and so forth.
We are ahead, and we will stay ahead, provided you do what I've hired you to do.
I was really nervous of, if things didn't go right, how would they be? How much pressure would it be on us? Even though they were so used to being handled and had done other film work, things could go wrong. And when things did go wrong, how did you deal with it? It's all very, very nerve-wracking, not to mention the fact that they're being motivated by the food reward they're getting. And if the scene required that, for whatever reason, the director was feeling really artistic and wanted to do multiple takes of a scene, by the time they were done the 5th, 6th take, their interest in a food reward could have diminished to nothing. I want to go lay down now. You would be filming a scene and you think that just went perfect, but then the lighting director would notice something that wasn't quite right, and they had to do it all over. Not anything to do with the animal, but just because of the other stuff with filming. And that'd be very hard to take, because you knew you probably weren't going to get a better take than the one you just did. But yet they were insisting on wanting to shoot some more. If there is no interest, if it's not food motivation, you've got squat, because what is motivating to wanting to do something? And it really stands to reason what the animal is. The lions spend most of their day laying around, and when they do get up and they do move around, it's generally to hunt and feed. If they have that satisfied, and they don't have a lot of motivation of just, walking from A to B or jumping up onto this rock or pedestal. There's so many things to consider, so many things that needed to go right in order for them to get the shot they wanted. There it is, Luke. Sonnenvelo is right at the very edge of the map. Sonnenvelo Nature Reserve. That's where the set was.
It was almost right on the border with Swaziland.
We went to Swaziland for a day. Swaziland's still a monarchy. I don't know what it was at the time. There's a king there. We went there for a day, and just Mike and I, and then drove back. But I didn't realize it's just barely made the map. So we had to drive to Kruger.
Where was the filming?
Just right there. All of the lion crew stayed there, and all the lions stayed there. We had various other sites that we would take the lions to for filming, but a lot of the filming was done on this reserve. As it usually was, your mom, Debbie, she wind up having, when there was all this filming going on outside the zoo and all this big exciting stuff was happening, the zoo still was a zoo, and there was a lot of animals to take care of, and now there was a few permanent staff that weren't there to help out. She was there to make sure that all the animals were well taken care of back at the zoo. So kind of the unsung hero of things like going away on a movie shoot kind of thing.
So can you introduce yourself?
As
Who you are?
as your mother?
And who do you have with you right now?
Oh, okay. My name is Debbie Strickrida, and this is my cat, Murphy. It always seemed to be the case whenever they went off to do commercials or movies or whatever. Since I was, Dad had been there the longest, but I was sort of next in command and was responsible for overseeing Not the elephant barn, that was Mike and Ted's domain, but, you know, all the other keepers and all the other animals. So I was responsible for making sure that the rest of the zoo, animal-wise, ran smoothly. And I can't remember at that time, you know, when the Ghost in the Darkness was being filmed, sort of what our staff was like. Sometimes we had better staff than others, other times, and that made a big difference as well, who you can rely on and whatnot. But yeah, so I was very busy. The main area of the zoo that was my responsibility, like my area, was the back. Everything past the bridge. So all the cats and then like all the hoof stock in the back, except for the one barn.
So it sounded like you did a lot of everything.
I did a lot of everything. A lot of everything, yes. Yeah.
And so were you worried for Dad at all about him going over there?
Yes, I was, but I also had confidence in his skills, but I also knew and understood how tricky what they were doing was and what was sort of being expected of them. And because it was before cell phones and whatnot, so you weren't getting, you know, daily check-ins. It was a big deal to be able to talk to him, and, you know, letters didn't really do anything. I don't even know if we wrote letters to each other. I had quite a variety, actually. Obviously, I did a lot of hand raising of animals as well, so those were obviously some of my favorites because, you know, they had I put a lot of work into them, and they responded to me more so than they did other people because I hand raised them, right? So there's that kind of thing. But I really enjoyed, obviously, our hippo when we had Petal. She was quite something, and even, you know, the kind of mundane regular animals. The goats were some of my favorites too, but hoofstock, I really enjoyed working with the hoofstock as well, and the monkeys. Like there was, I didn't have like one particular favorite really. So like type of animal, anyway. So
Yeah, I mean, that really struck me from the moment we arrived at our base camp on the reserve. I mean, I didn't get to see the surrounding area of where we stayed until nightfall. And on our drive through our little cow path of a road, there was a hippo crossing the road the first night, a couple zebra and a couple eland and the kind of thing. And I just thinking, yeah, this is it. We are in Africa now. There was a lot of people that were nervous about the fact that we were staying in Africa. We were on tents that were on raised wooden platforms. It was a space about 5-6 feet tall, and every once in a day I was walking back and forth to where we would eat and just poking around to see if there's any interesting wildlife, big or small. And a pair of paradise flycatchers built a nest on the platform underneath my tent. I noticed that in the area there was a Mozambique spitting cobra, and I thought, I wonder if there's going to be a conflict there. And sure enough, one day saw that it was heading toward the nest, and the next time I looked and peered inside the nest, all the babies were gone. And I suppose some people would be unnerved that a cobra is underneath their tent, but I think you become aware of that pretty quick, that, you know, you don't bother the local wildlife, they're not going to bother you. This particular reserve did not have big predators in it. There was leopards around, that's where you seldom saw, but there was no other prides of lion within the area that we were. And they've known that in the past, if you're filming in Africa with lions you brought into a situation, the local lions aren't really crazy if you move in adult male lions, because at night they'll roar. And the resident lions will immediately, their response is, these are intruders, we better see what that's about and get rid of them. It worked out very well to not have local lions. As far as the wildlife we would pass by every day from the lodge to the set was a mother rhino and her calf we dubbed Football, because he looked like a football. And occasionally I'd be biking back and he was fairly close to the road, and you'd kind of like edge your way along next to trees thinking I'd have to ditch the bike, climb a tree, and wait for somebody to get me. That never happened, but that was always in the back of your mind. And for the most part, they were content to be grazing in a field. But I remember I was biking home one day, and then halfway home, I realized the weather was getting really dark and the wind was picking up. And at one point I realized that it was going to storm during my bike ride home. So I just went as fast as I could. And you started hearing claps of thunder. I realized that running right beside me on the road was a small herd of giraffe. And at the speed I was going, and I really wanted to not get soaked, I was moving roughly the same speed as the giraffe. But I remember at that moment going, is there anything cooler than this? I'm riding with a herd of giraffe in the middle of Africa during a thunderstorm. Stuff like that really stands out in my mind. And you would see antelope off in the distance. All the commotion that was happening where we were filming, the animals tend to sort of stay back and not want to get too close to all that activity going on. We met Val Kilmer first, and Val Kilmer actually was staying at the same resort that we were. Everybody would gather at a communal mess hall at the beginning, but with time he had his own sort of compound within a compound, so he could be away from us, I guess. And then Michael Douglas, who was one of the producers of the movie, we met him later on, but he was very professional to us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's got a little bit. See, now I look like Michael Douglas.
Everyone's dream.
Everyone's dream. There. There was a lot of scenes that needed to see the lions were being aggressive in attack mode, kind of thing. They were difficult because animals don't act. If the scene requires that it is an attacking lion, they can't portray that without being kind of in that mode. Sometimes we would hold a chicken off camera kind of thing that would really get their attention, and you could see it right in their eyes that there was something that now they wanted. Or sometimes we had scenes where the lion is actually consuming a human, where we'd have a dummy and we would inside the dummy put actual meat and blood and what have you, and you really hope that you shoot it in such a way that even though the lion is eating out of a food bowl, but in this case is a food bowl now shaped like a person. But whenever you have, a lion with its meat, it gets protective of it. There's a lot of things to consider, and again, things can go wrong. So you do a lot of prep and a lot of figuring out where everybody needs to be before you start shooting something like that. The dummy we had one time where one of the lions picked up a dummy and just walked off with it, which probably looked pretty cool at the time, but if they thought somebody is trying to take this away from me, they would dig in more, and sometimes it really meant you had to sort of wait it out, or bring over a big load of its supper and try to convince them to let go of that item for another item, in this case something far more appealing. Yeah, there was a scene where both Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer were going to be raising their guns to take a shot at the lion that was coming down and attacking them. So it'd be like they had their guns in position, and then I was on a two-tier platform with a 4x8 sheet of plywood with bongo on a chain, and at the precise moment let him go, Mike would be on the ground calling him, basically jumping over the actors. So in that case too, we kind of did it earlier on where there was a stronger food motivation, But with that, they're eager to go. Just simply trying to hold back a 500-pound lion is a very, very difficult thing.
Well, this certainly is the best opportunity those lions have had to kill you.
In situations like that, what we'd always do was just turn them around. And as they're turning around, you kind of broke their focus for a while. And then hopefully you'd like to time it that when they're ready to go, you turn and getting ready, you unclip and lion goes. But that can get the timing wrong. And sometimes it was just really frustrating because cameras weren't ready to go. We were ready to go. But at the last minute, you had to you had to stop this scene from progressing, and meant you had to turn around another time. It's just very, very, very nerve-wracking. And when you get the shot that they want, it's a huge relief. This is actual blue screen from Ghost in the Darkness. It obviously burnt. And I had found this in a box. I had saved it. It's kind of gross. There was two times that I recollect that they had a lot of extras on set. In one of the days, there was about 750 extras. As I mentioned, Caesar was a little more concerned, a little nervous about unique and odd situations. And we were filming something and he got away. He ran to a place that was away from everything and quiet, and he just went and laid down. But all the extras did not know that. All they knew that there was a lion taking off in their general direction, which caused everybody, like, total mayhem, people running for their lives. And we were trying to tell them, as we often did when we were filming with lions, is if somehow they get loose, just stand still, because when you run, you resemble prey. Unfortunately, when there's a loose lion, a lot of that goes out the window and people just run. Caesar ran to his nice quiet spot under the tree, and there was no harm done on anybody, but still, you don't want moments like that in shooting where there is 750 extras running for their lives. Various other memorabilia stuff from Ghost in the Darkness. Here, I'm going to go and get this out of the way so you can get a better look at it. The main movie poster that we got. Over a long period of time, and the crew gets more familiar. We always stress to ignore the animals. For one thing, you don't want them being distracted from their task at hand. And lions or any wild animal can take a dislike to somebody for no apparent reason. They just don't like them. So the best way to get around that is people leave them alone. Don't bother them, don't spend a lot of time going, "Hi, how's it going?" Or people will do that. But we started noticing in the daily call sheets, they would refer to the French lions as the aggressive lions or something like that. And in our case, they started writing down the friendly lions. And we said, this is not a healthy way to view this. They're still lions. Yes, they see us we're taking them on a leash. They're rubbing against us, looking like they are content. But they're still lions, and that you can never forget that. The thing I used to tell a lot of people is, remember this with lions: they are predators. They hunt, kill, and eat things for a living. And someone human size is fair game, so just keep that in mind. And we always did. I mean, we had a relationship with the lions, but we never ever forgot that they were essentially a wild animal.
Were the lions used for the whole thing? Were there any CG or animatronics used at all?
We did a bunch of green screen stuff and so on, but they had planned to use animatronic lions. Ghost in the Darkness was filmed not that long after the original Jurassic Park. And in that movie, I mean, it was really successful, especially that you had very lifelike dinosaurs that could actually move. I remember seeing they had a couple of lion heads that they could use for close-ups of biting into, their victims, but it being a safe way of doing that. Static, the lion heads looked very, very realistic, but when they moved with animatronics, it was all very robotic looking. And they quickly said, okay, we're gonna need to do this particular scene with actual lions. Like the animatronic lions just won't cut it. It was a learning curve for them, but it also meant that the amount of scenes they needed with the lions increased by quite a lot. So yeah, there was a lot of work for the real lions. This was the better book, kind of like we have preferences here. This was the better field guide for there. I mean, it's kind of similar to Sibley's, really.
Yeah, and we highlighted birds in there that we saw too.
Yeah, so I think I'd have to look back, but I'm pretty sure in the 2 weeks we were there, we saw like 150 different species of birds. I was very, very intimidated because there was people there that had been involved in animals in the movies for decades. They knew their stuff, and they had been involved with so many iconic movies with animals in them. I felt, really out of place that we weren't worthy, but our lions definitely were. They had something, but there was a lot to be learned at that level. Sudan, he was another fully maned lion. He was much smaller than Bongo and Caesar, he was very agile. So there was a lot of things that he would be better at than Bongo and Caesar. That was the nice thing about the mix between our two, Sudan from California, and then the two French lions. Between the five of them, I think they had all the looks that they wanted. Just naturally, the French lions had that more sort of wild look about them.
So Bongo and Caesar are a little bit more laid back compared to that.
Oh yeah, so that really serves you well for handling them on a leash, but in terms of having a very particular look, maybe not so much. Our paddock was side by side with the two French lions. They had indoor enclosures, and then they had an outdoor run too. When we left the compound in a day, they were sort of in a locked, contained area, kind of like coming into a house versus a display area kind of thing. The whole area had security that would drive by and check on them every hour kind of thing, just to make sure nothing had gotten out or nothing gotten in, all that kind of stuff. Haven't gotten clued in yet. Your fish isn't very smart, Luke. I was informed that, and we had definitely seen back in Canada, anytime that anything like a lion or an animal is used on film location, there is a SPCA Humane Society representative there, just watches what's going on with each scene kind of thing. And even if somebody were to suggest, well, we could do this, they would say, no, we're uncomfortable with that. But I don't remember anything like that ever happening.
Right. So they never had to intervene.
No. They would have questions from time to time about, I see the lions doing that, and is that a usual behavior or what's causing that? And you'd point out what was happening, and everything that I remember was no problem at all in that regard.
Could you tell the story about the flag?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, the French Lions and our Lions were more or less in the same compound. So we were there over Christmas, and at Christmas in the mess tent, they brought in flags from all the countries represented during filming. We grabbed the Canadian flag, and the French team grabbed their French flag. We decided just to erect flagpoles right next to our compound, sort of side by side. And then it occurred to us that the French flag, they had a longer pole. And we thought, well, we can't have that. So we found longer pole than theirs. And then they picked up on that, and they started lashing a couple poles together. And this went on for quite a while, to the point in which it was really absurd how high we made the flags. But it all got put away when the director was setting up a shot, and in the horizon, instead of seeing the African hills, the first thing that stood out was a Canadian and a French flag flying in there. And he was a little pissed about that, and ordered us to take them down immediately. And so that fun had stopped right there and then. Pretty much the whole crew got tick bite fever. Tick bite fever was almost like a 24, 48 hour flu. Pounding headache, fever, chills, and all that kind of stuff. And luckily we had brought antibiotics in case the lions got sick. We were told to sort of let the ailment settle in and then just hit it real hard with antibiotics. And sure enough, that was it. Any of the crew that had to do any night shooting that were walking through long grass wound up getting tick bite fever. And it knocked the stuffing out of you for a while. And it wouldn't say that you got it once and that was it. But if any other times you did get it, it was a milder form, to the point that I'm sure we got bit by ticks and didn't even feel any after effects. We had gone away. We had time off, and we were going to do our visiting. We always, if we had a day or two off, we would drive around. There was various things of interest that we would drive to. It was late, and I think Mike was in there hoping to get home early because the next day was going to be busy. And we were down a very nothing much on this road, and we're going fairly fast, and all of a sudden we came upon a herd of domestic cows, and we hit one, and luckily the car didn't swerve off the road, but the windshield immediately got knocked out. I felt on my belly, on my lap, a loop of intestine. And I'd always been told that, in the state of shock, you could have a huge injury and not realize it at all. So I was feeling a loop of intestine. I was panicking, thinking that somehow something had come through the windshield, and I had my entrails hanging out, till I realized that it was from the cow, and then it was the biggest relief knowing that I hadn't had my guts open. This was simply part of the cow. We went to the police station, and it was late, and they seemed like they weren't interested in anything. They were kind of like, well, what do you want us to do about it? At any rate, we drove home from there, and we were sent on our way. But before we left, the police officers there said they would like to take our picture, because I was covered head to toe with green rumen fluid, and they thought that was interesting to tell their buddies the next day, I guess. Taking a look at the car, it's kind of amazing that we weren't, seriously injured. Yeah, I must have ingested some rumen fluid, because I got really sick the next day. I felt like I had a flu, I had a fever and all that kind of stuff. It didn't last more than 24 hours, but yeah, I just felt very, very sick the next day.
John! Where do you think you're going?
I'm gonna sort it out.
Well, I never dressed in wardrobe for any shots, but there was a scene toward the end of the movie, the climax, where the lion, in this case Bongo, is chasing Val Kilmer. Now, that scene was shot with Bongo chasing me, and then later on they superimposed Val in the shot. So it required me to run for length on this bridge and at the end jump off onto a crash mat in which Bongo came after me, kind of thing. Which was pretty cool because that was considered like a stunt. And I guess in Hollywood tradition, once the stunt is completed, everybody claps. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. But I remember also the sound guy was saying that it was deafening because the whole time that I'm running, I'm calling for Bongo to chase me. He said, all I could hear was Bongo, 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 like top of my lungs kind of thing. Because obviously your adrenaline's going, and I probably was louder than I needed to be, but I didn't think it mattered. Oh, holy sh! It's a Mapani leaf. When we stayed in Mapani. When we were in Kruger, one of the camps was called Mapani, and this is a leaf from the Mapani tree. And at times they get overrun with Mapani worms, which are essentially a caterpillar that when they emerge, they're all over the place. But when saved, one of the leaves because it's a very interesting shaped leaf. Mom came out to the last couple days of filming. There were some B shots they needed to get, so she got to sort of see that whole process too.
Once that was done, then we took our rented car and then we headed out to Kruger. No, we went to Londolozi first, didn't we?
That's right.
Went to Londolozi. And we first pulled up to where we were staying. There's a whole family of warthogs just kind of running by, remember?
Between our car and the little place where we stayed at.
Yeah, no, we had gone off and we had our book and we had our maps. We knew where we were supposed to go. And we took a wrong turn. There was no sign there, but we thought according to the map, this is where we were supposed to go. And then as we were traveling along, we're going, was there any signs? This seems kind of not quite right. We didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident.
At any rate, we were driving down this road and we think, oh, this seems to go nowhere. We don't see any other cars, but there was guards that sort of pulled up to us.
In a Jeep.
And
lots of guards.
And they had their guns.
Big guns, like big,
so
like not machine guns, but they were big guns.
I think they were machine guns. At any rate, we just tried to, as quickly as we could, point out the fact that we just made a wrong turn. Like this, we were not trying to poach anything or stuff like that. I mean, I think it was a little bit disconcerting because as opposed to them going, oh, okay, just go this way, we had to go through the story a little bit before they were convinced.
And they escorted us back to the main road because they weren't going to let us to our own devices and let us figure out how to get back out of there.
Yeah.
I said that's one of the pictures we took before the guards escorted us out where we weren't supposed to be with their big machine guns.
And probably the other thing that was potentially scary, but our distance wasn't so close that we had to worry about it. There was
I worried.
There was a musk bull elephant that was
on the road.
And as they do, when they're in musk, they are full of themselves, full of swagger and all that kind of stuff. They walk right down the middle of the road, and so we were well ahead, but we kind of just stayed that we could watch what things. We were talking like, I don't know, a third of a kilometer away that we were watching this. Somebody said I didn't want to wait any longer. They got tired of waiting, and they thought they could just go around him. But walking in the middle of the road, a 13,000-pound elephant takes up more road than you'd like, and they had to like slam it in reverse, and we can see their backup lights, and the elephant was was going after them, kind of thing.
Ears out, head down.
So it's pretty cool. But we had seen there is a elephant museum in one of the rest areas called Letaba, and they have like a little mini museum in there, and they have they actually have some photographs and things where elephants have attacked cars and, you know, put their tusk right through the roof and things like that.
And people are driving small cars, like little compact cars,
Yeah.
for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't take too much for an elephant to send them
To destroy it.
No.
Doesn't even have to try. In Oshawa, actually, we had the whole theater reserved for the whole zoo staff. So we got to see it for the first time there, which is really, it's the first time I'd seen something like that of a feature film where you know each shot that involves the lion, where you stood, where you were in relation to the lion and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of takes away a little bit of the magic because, you know that it didn't look the same way as it does on the big screen.
It was cool to see, especially knowing what Dad had been involved in as far as the filming went. But also, maybe Dad said this as well, very nerve-wracking to see whether he was going to get his name on the credit at the end.
I was actually a little bit worried because they earlier on in the show, or in the credits rolling, they showed the 4 primary trainers, and then credits kept rolling, greens people, caterers, and finally it was myself and Monique who were listed as, she was the assistant handler for the French team, and then myself. So we were listed as assistant lion trainers. So, yeah. I figure going through that, that's the least you could do is actually see your name up on the screen.
Did they spell your name right?
I don't think so. I don't think they've ever spelled my name right. And this is like call sheets every day. I think it was always spelt wrong. It was always CK instead of IK. Oh, well.
What was your favorite thing about that experience?
I just think it's just Africa. For me, it was always Africa. If I thought about all the animal programs, the documentaries I saw as a kid, I always thought of it as Africa, the big, wide open, you know, Serengeti, the savannah. That was something I really wanted to see. And I know people have said that South Africa doesn't compare to East Africa, like Kenya, Serengeti, Masai Mara. But to me, it was a pretty good Africa. Where our tents were on the reserve, there was a bit of not quite a mountain, but a tall hill that we wanted to go and hike to the top of, which we did. And when we got to the top of the hill, we thought we'd like to go and commemorate it somehow. So we took an empty film canister and wrote a note saying, you know, Ted Strickwood and Mike Hackenberger were in Africa filming the Ghost in the Darkness on this date, and then we rolled it up and we put it under a rock on top of this hill. And I wonder if anybody has ever walked by and found it. Probably not, but it's there. I wonder if I went back there, if I could find where it is. I think it'd be turning over a lot of rocks to find where it was. So this is the most recent guitar I built. This one was the first time I painted a guitar. Other ones had just been with an oil type finish over top to enhance the natural wood grain, but it's the first time I tried painting one. This is like a nitrocellulose finish. But with a spray can, I didn't have an elaborate spraying system, but it turned out all right. The first acoustic I ever made was this.
Electric?
The first electric I ever made was this one made out of walnut. And it is, the walnut looks very nice, but this is super heavy. This thing weighs a ton, heavier than most Les Pauls. This was the first one where I had a separate flame maple top that I glued on and hollowed it out. So this is like similar to a Telecaster thin line. So it is considerably less heavy. This is another semi-hollow body. This sound hole, I don't know if it's reminiscent to you, but what does it remind you of?
It's a kudu antler, or horn, I should
Yep,
say.
it's supposed to look like a kudu horn. So I don't know if you've ever seen guitars that have like paisley material embedded in there. I figure I would make this one look like a giraffe. So yeah, this is a fabric that's laid on here, and then as epoxy resin goes over top of it. I thought it was cool. And who doesn't want a guitar to look like a giraffe?